Hey everyone and welcome to the Retro channel, and we are back with the Super Nintendo. So I guess this is part 2 of the repairathon, if you want to call it that. In part 1 we had a look at an issue that was caused by a dodgy clock signal on the original SHVC boards, the first revision of the Super Nintendo boards. And after releasing that video, which I'll link to up there if you haven't seen it, I got a suggestion on another way that might fix this clock issue, which doesn't involve using this 7404 on the board over here. And as you'll notice, there's no more bodge wire, and the inputs to this 7404 I've reconnected back to ground as they were previously. And I'm happy to report that this board doesn't suffer from the video glitching with the EverDrive anymore. Of course, that does mean that something else has changed here, and this pretty much comes courtesy of Volta, who looked at the original schematics for this board, rather than the ones that I referenced, which were like a multi-board schematic, and suggested just a small change to the clock circuit on these boards may actually solve this issue, rather than relying on this 7404. So looking at the correct schematics for this board, we can see the clock circuit is buffered by 2 NPN transistors, and on the output of the second transistor is an RC filter, and Volta speculated that it may be doing more harm than good, especially given the proximity of that RC filter circuit to the rest of the things on the main clock line. So his initial suggestion was just to lower the value of R6 to see if the glitching went away. So I removed my bodge, reconnected that trace that I cut, and stuck a trim pot in the place of R6, and went about adjusting that resistance value downwards to see if the glitching stopped. And at around 10 ohms, it did stop. So there was definitely something to this, but given the original value is 100 ohms and we've now changed that to 10, that would have thrown off the whole RC circuit and made it kind of pointless, which is what Volta pretty much said in the first place. So we also suggested removing C5 and repeating the tests, and this time I got down to around 30 ohms before the glitching stopped. But of course, without that capacitor there, it's no longer an RC filter, so is the resistor really needed at all? Turns out, not really. So it would seem the easiest way to fix this issue is just to remove C5 entirely and bridge R6. I've just put a little jumper link there, just because it looks a little bit tidier. And after doing a bunch more tests with this board and a bunch of different games, I'm happy to report that I didn't see any more video glitches. So while my solution may have worked, it's a little bit more complicated, and Volta's solution definitely is the easier one of the two and is much easier to implement. So a huge shout out and thanks to Volta for looking into that, and yeah, it's a lot easier than what I was doing with the 7404, assuming that it works in other cases. So I do have a couple more boards to test this out with, because I think they're going to suffer from that same video glitching. So before I call this one 100% confirmed, I want to test it out with those first. And if anyone wants to check if their board suffers from the same issues, it only affects the SHVC boards, and pretty much only ones that have the revision 1 CPU and revision 1 PPUs. So you'll notice that it has an 01 at the end of each chip. The EverDrive also reports this info under system information, so if you see 111 there, it means you have all revision 1 chips. And I found the best games to show off this issue are either the intro to Star Fox as the little spaceships fly in, or the title screen to Street Fighter Alpha 2. And as far as I know, it only affects certain revisions of the SD to SNES or FX Pack Pro. So you may not even come across this issue, and I don't think it affects any original cartridges that I'm aware of. Now it seems there are certain exceptions to the 111 chip revisions, because I also have another board, and this has a revision 2 CPU and PPU 2 and a revision 1 PPU 1. And this also suffered from minor video glitches, certainly not as bad as this board originally was, but they were still there. In this case, the fix for this one was just to remove C5 and leave R6 in place. I could of course still jumper R6, but I didn't need to do that, so I didn't bother. But as I said, I've got a couple more boards that I think are going to suffer from the same problem, so let's get those out. Alright, after looking through the pile of boards, I found a total of 5 that may suffer from this same problem. Obviously, at the time I was looking at these boards, which was about a year ago, I wasn't sure what I was actually seeing. I wasn't aware of this particular issue. So it may well be that some of these just have a faulty CPU or something else, but it could also be the clock circuit. So let's just start with this one, I guess. We'll put all these aside and see what happens. Oh, and as you'll see, I've already recapped all these boards, so replaced all the SMD capacitors as they are prone to leaking at this point in time. I also replaced the 7805s on these. That was part of the white line fix, but I don't think it really does all that much, if anything at all. Obviously, people like Volta have way more experience with that kind of stuff, so I can't really comment there. Anyway, let's plug this thing in and see what it does. All right, it powers on. That's a good start. So I did write glitchy video with Super Mario Kart, so let's check that out first. Ah, yes. There is the occasional glitches there. Let's have a look at Star Fox and Street Fighter Alpha, because I think they show it off a little bit better. So if we go straight to the title screen, this one here, it looks fine. I'm not seeing any issues there. Let's check out Star Fox. So usually it'll be right in this sort of intro section. Yeah, that also looks fine. So yeah, maybe Super Mario Kart is the better one to test this with. It's definitely got problems. So it may not be the clock signal on this one, I'm not 100% sure. And it looks like we have a Rev 2 CPU, Rev 1 PPU 1, and Rev 3 PPU 2. So who knows? Maybe we should have a quick look on the scope. So that's how our master clock's looking. Yeah, 2.6, 2.7 volts peak to peak. And it does look fairly noisy, not the greatest thing. And in single shot mode, yeah, it looks pretty clean, but yeah, having the scope running, you can see that it's sort of a little bit jittery. So let's make these changes, see what happens. So to start with, I think I'll just try removing C5. We'll come back and play with R6 later. I'll just throw a bit of solder on this, and then we should be able to swipe it away. All right, there we go. It looks, yeah, maybe a little bit cleaner. Let's get a single shot. Yeah, okay. Amplitude's gone up a bit as well. We're around 2.9 volts peak to peak. Let's see what the video output looks like. Oh, still glitchy. All right, let's bridge R6, see what that does. So we get the old one off, which is 100 ohms. And just because I've got them on hand, I'll put in a 0 ohm link. These are an 0805 size. Of course, you could just use a resistor leg offcut or something just to bridge those two pads. All right, R6 is now bridged. Let's see what happens this time. Of course, I could be barking up the wrong tree here, and there might be something completely different wrong with this board. Well, it still boots. That's nice. Well, Super Mario Kart is looking good. I am capturing this at the wrong frame rate, so it looks a little bit jittery, but I don't see any obvious video glitches in there. I'm just going to check out Star Fox again, even though it didn't show anything before. Maybe we've broken something else now. Now that looks fine. We'll check out Street Fighter Alpha. Oh, they all look good. Let's have a look on the scope. And that's how it looks now. So we're at around 3.3 volts peak to peak, so it's definitely gone up again. You can, however, see what looks like, I guess, a bit of ringing on the falling edge of the clock signal, but that doesn't seem to cause us any issues. So while it might not look as clean as when we ran it through the 7404, it seems to work, and it's that simple. Oh, before I move on, I should update these notes. Otherwise, I'll just end up looking at it again sometime in the future and wondering why it just works properly. Right, that should do. At least I know where I'm up to. Let's get the next one. Oh, gonna need that cartridge port back. Oh. What? Well, that's a problem. So the menu's all screwed up, and yeah, even if I try and select something, it just does nothing. Right, looks like we can still browse the actual files though. Let me What are we looking for? Super Mario Kart. See if we can get to it this way. Is that on my notes? No, I just wrote glitchy with SD to SNES and Super Mario Kart. Well, I'm not seeing the glitches in the video. Oh, yeah, that's not what it's supposed to look like, and I think it has crashed. I don't think this is going to be clock related somehow. Let's throw in the burn-in cart. Well, everything passes, apparently. Will we spot anything odd here? Oh. It's not supposed to look like that. Yeah. So it looks like mode 7 is messed up. So I think that's mostly down to PPU2 that does the mode 7 stuff, I think. But yeah, that's definitely a problem and really doesn't look like the same clock-related issue that we've been seeing. So I might update this to say mode 7 bad. So we might save this board for another time. I really want to solve these clock issues first, just so I can see whether or not this fix is going to work in all cases, or at least all the cases that I have here. So that can go back in the pile. All right, let's move on to the next one. Well, at least our menu works again. Oh, yep. Yeah, that looks like the clock glitch. Let's see, Star Fox. Yeah, you can see it all over the place during this intro. You can even see it in the menu there. And Street Fighter Alpha 2, it'll look normal at first, but definitely once you go to the title screen, yeah, there we go. All over the place. So yeah, this definitely looks like the clock issue. Let's just jump straight in, remove that cap and bridge that resistor, see what happens. Right, R6 is bridged and C5 removed. Let's see what happens. Looks good. Let's just go for Street Fighter Alpha 2 this time. It's looking good. Not seeing any issues there. Star Fox looks good. And Super Mario Kart is also looking good. Awesome. 2 more to test. Update the notes. Well, all I'm getting is black screen, but the EverDrive seems to start up normally. I'm not seeing any flashing lights on it. Ew, the sound module might not have been plugged in properly. And yeah, the EverDrive doesn't work properly without that, as do most games. You can boot these with the burn-in cart without the sound module installed, but nothing else. Although, I'm still getting a black screen. Alright, burn-in cart it is. Oh yeah, they ain't no good. Yep, that's a problem. Well, I've got glitchy video with burn-in cart here, so maybe that means the burn-in cart didn't actually start up before either, and glitchy video is, well, my notes for exactly what we're seeing here. So yeah, don't think this one's a clock fault either. Could be just about anything. I'd have to look into that a little bit more. This one could be a challenge, and it's going to have to be a challenge for another day. There we go, that'll do. A little bit more descriptive, sort of. Right, well, then this might be the last one. So we've got video dropout on Star Fox C area under heatsink. We'll look at that in a minute. Let's just see if this thing even powers on. Got to plug in power first. All right, that works. Oh, I was about to say Star Fox looks okay, and then it just dropped out. Now it's back. Oh, Super Mario Kart's dropped out, and it ain't coming back. It's back. Did it reset? I think it reset. And the Street Fighter Alpha 2 screen, it's back as well. And it's gone. And, yeah, something ain't right. I guess we should probably check out this area under heatsink, see what I was talking about there. And, I don't know, this may well be another clock issue problem, but let's inspect what's going on under here first. Alright, it looks like there was corrosion around some of the capacitors, and it's eaten some of the traces. Although it looks like I attempted to fix it. I've definitely replaced those caps. Yeah, I don't see that causing an issue. Like, these sort of sit on the video and audio outputs. So, well, I guess it could cause video dropouts, but it seems unlikely. Well, I don't really feel like pulling off any of those caps right now, so let's just poke around, see if we've got continuity where we'd expect to find it. All the traces under those caps still check out. They're all heading to where I'd expect to find them, so yeah, it doesn't seem to be an issue under there. I reckon it's going to be this damn clock circuit again. Right, by now you know the deal. R6 bridged, C5 removed. Let's see what happens. Alright, not seeing any dropouts on Street Fighter Alpha 2. Let's check the other games. Yeah, Super Mario Kart looks happy. And Star Fox looks happy. So yeah, I think another one fixed. And of course, original cartridges will still work as normal, or at least they should. Yeah, everything's good here. Cool, so that was 1, 2, 3, 4 Super Nintendos that had the same issue. And yeah, as I said, it wasn't something that I was aware of when I first looked at these things, so I didn't know what was causing the fault. But this fix appears to work, so let's see what we had here. Well, it looks like I had 5 boards with this issue, and like I said at the start, I've got one of these that has a revision 2 CPU and PPU 2, and a revision 1 PPU 1, so not entirely isolated to the 111 combination. It looks like this one, and this one are all 111s, but these two, 212 and 213. So the only thing common throughout all of these boards is a revision 1 PPU 1. So I think the video glitching was more obvious on these boards, which are all the 111 combination, but just goes to show that it can still affect other boards that don't have that same combination of chips. So I think that's going to do it for this one. There's still plenty of other boards to be repaired, but I wanted to focus again on this clock issue and this potential solution for it. And now that we've gathered this data, I think this might be the way to go. It's certainly the easiest way to do it. So yeah, a big thanks to Voltar for the stiff clock. And thank you to the folks working on the Console Mods wiki and also the people on the Console Mods Discord server for chiming in on this issue. This, yeah, seems like the ideal fix for it. Of course, thank you to the people who also watched the first video and left comments there. Yeah, really good to see the community coming together and trying to solve problems that we all may encounter at some point. So that should be it for this one. I hope to see you all again, because there's still plenty more Super Nintendos to repair, and I definitely think we're going to be doing some chip swapping in the next video. So that's it for this one. Thank you all for watching, and a huge thanks to the people that support the channel on Patreon. If you want to do the same and get ad-free early access to all videos, you'll find links to that down below. That's it from me. Bye.